It's Sunday, November 30th, 2025, and it looks like Ilhan Omar is trending this evening with 88,200 posts and probably climbing. So what did she do? She went on mainstream news this weekend. I don't know. I didn't watch anything this weekend. I actually kind of stayed away from politics for the most part over the weekend. And so what did she do? Talk about how she totally didn't marry her brother. And no, I'm totally here legally. So Paula A. Cispula, Rep. Ilhan Omar says she wants to force all Americans to, register their guns so that the government can start a buyback program? Yeah, right. Over my dead body, over my dead bullet riddled body at that. So what she's really saying is she wants to force Americans to be defenseless. Well, yeah, if that's what they want with the buyback program, that's typically how it works. Here's a better idea: deport Ilhan. Yeah, and anybody who thinks like her, if you're a natural born American citizen, there's plenty of places your American passport can take you. You can go to Australia, where they've done the gun buyback program. I think they did that in some capacity up in Canada. I know it's pretty hard to get a gun in pretty much any European country. You've got all these Western countries that you can go and choose to live at. And most of them are a lot more progressive than we are. Why don't you follow in Rosie O'Donnell's footsteps, where she moved to, I don't even know, like Ireland or some shit. I don't know. Anyway, let's listen to this.
We have more guns in this country than we have humans. So one of the things that's going to be important is to create a registry. So we know where the guns are. We can know when they go into the wrong hands, when they're stolen.
Wait a minute. So if a firearm is stolen because you have your name on a registry, so they know that you own this gun, you own that gun, but if somebody breaks in your house and they steal your gun, how does that track? How does the registry know which criminal's hands that firearm ends up in? It wouldn't. That doesn't make any sense unless you're gonna freaking air tag every single firearm out there, which, yeah, right. Good luck with that.
And we can actually start a buyback program. I know that some of the Minnesota legislators have had that legislation, and that's something that we should be thinking about on a federal level.
Yeah, on a federal level over my dead body. That ain't happening. No way. Ain't gonna happen. Not here. At least not in the state of Florida. Shit better not happen. Not so long as I'm around, at least. And many, many, many millions of people like me. All right, Colin Rugg knew Ilhan Omar's daughter is it Isra Hearsay says she is now homeless and hungry after being suspended from school for her anti-Israel protests. Oh, fuck around, find out. Too bad, so sad. Sucks to be you. Hearsay, she says her school, Bernard College, just threw all her stuff in an empty lot. I was a little bit frantic, like, where am I going to sleep? Where am I going to go? Also, all of my shit is thrown in a random lot. It's pretty horrible, she said to Teen Vogue. To Teen Vogue. Like they really give that much of a shit anyway. I don't know when I can go home, and I don't know if I will ever be able to. Wait a minute, this is Rep. Ilhan Omar's daughter. And isn't Rep. Ilhan Omar worth $30 million? Yeah, she is, because her husband's worth $30 million. Ergo, she's worth $30 million. If Ilhan Omar divorced her husband tomorrow, she would be worth roughly probably about $15 million, if not more than that. So your mother's got plenty of money, whether if it was gotten through illegitimate gains, I don't know. Supposedly it wasn't, I don't know. Anyway, so she said, I sent them an email. Hey, I rely on campus for my meals. I rely on my dining plan. And they were like, oh, you can come pick up a prepackaged bag of food a full 48 hours after I was suspended. There was no food support, no nothing. Well, that's why you got to call mommy and say, give me some of your money. Hearsay, she says she'll remain homeless until her school's hearing. Yeah, whatever, dude. Nobody buys this shit. So anyway, let's hear what she says here on MSDNC.
Do other student groups have this kind of target on their back, or do you feel that you are being targeted because of the fact
her clothes are awfully clean for being homeless, and she doesn't have any friends? The fact that her mother's name is Ilhan Omar, that she doesn't have any kind of connections with her peers at the university. There's no place she could possibly stay. She's going to have to live in her car in the dead of winter now that we're knocking on December's door. Yeah, okay.
That it is in solidarity with Palestinians and against what Israel's doing to Palestinians.
Oh, come on, dude. Why does
other student groups have this kind of target on their back?
X, man, it drives me nuts
that you are
sometimes.
Being targeted because of the fact that it is in solidarity with Palestinians and against what Israel's doing to Palestinians?
Oh, this is 100% targeted. Every single protest that we have, there's a group of counter-protesters that bring all of their items, their flags and things like that.
Why the fuck are they still protesting? The whole war thing is over. It's over. Hamas signed the peace plan. It's rolling out right now. There's a 20-point plan. They're going through it. Number 1, number 2, number 3. I'm not sure what number they're on right now, but right now they're in the process of cleaning up the Gaza Strip. They've got all this heavy equipment out there right now. They're clearing out the roads. They're about to start rebuilding the hospitals. They're going to start rebuilding all these buildings. There's something like 35 different countries involved in this cleanup process and rebuilding Gaza. So what the fuck are they even protesting anymore?
And they're not seen as having unsanctioned protests or really receive the kind of disciplinary warnings that many of our fellow
Oh, they want Palestine to take over Israel, right? Isn't that whole river to the sea bullshit? I'm not too familiar with all that, whatever. So isn't that what they're going to be protesting now? That that Israel belongs to Palestine now?
Received just for being seen at these protests. And so there is definitely some hypocrisy here, especially you can kind of see it with the students that were sprayed us with the chemical weapons, and the fact that there's no public information as to what happened to them, but rather the university is actively discussing what is happening to the students here and making it a whole public spectacle, rather than when we haven't done anything to physically harm students, whereas those that sprayed those chemical weapons physically harmed students.
Well, guess what? There's nothing that's ever going to make these people happy. If you give them, if you tell them to write out an entire checklist of everything that you want to make you truly happy with regard to all your protest and bullshit, and then every single item on that list is fulfilled, do you think that they'll be truly happy? They're not going to demand anything more? No, they're progressives. They never stop. Every time you give them an inch, they always they take a mile and another mile and another mile. There's just never going to be any end to it. It's just going to go on forever and ever and ever. All right, so let's head back to the next post. If there is another one. I'm assuming that there's more. Okay, so we did that one. Let's see. Holy crap, President Trump's going off on Ilhan Omar. Quote, Somalia, you have Ilhan Omar. She supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. I believe that I covered this on Friday, I think. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be in Congress and we should throw her the hell out of our country. Do it. But maybe not. Oh, no. Oh, no, actually, this is today. This happened on Air Force One today. Holy shit. It's audio only. Can you tell?
Our Constitution, and yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw her the hell out of our country.
Off of that, in that same post, you mentioned Tim Walz, and you called him what many...
Yeah, isn't that a form of fraud or something? You know, if you marry your brother to get inside the United States. And then she had the gall to run for Congress. I mean, you think that if you married your brother to sneak into the country or to try to legitimize yourself as a permanent resident or a citizen or whatever the hell she decided to do or she had to do, and she had to marry your brother along the process in order to get that done, you think you'd be hiding underneath a rock if you were to do something like that. Boom, President Trump on Ilhan Omar. She supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. So I guess this one is not audio only if it's the same thing.
Frankly, don't need their people coming into our country telling us what to do.
When you talk about
I'm talking about like Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution, and yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw her the hell out of our country.
Well, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of pushback against that, at least not from the right. Next order, just in, Elon Musk, any violation of the oath of citizenship should result in deportation. I agree. We need to start denaturalizing American haters and immigration fraudsters like Ilhan Omar, and we need to do it quickly. Yeah, see, that's the thing. When you take that oath to become a U.S. citizen, and you were born in another country, and you took that, what is it, like naturalization exam and the oath and everything, if you break that oath, I'm sure it's somewhere in the federal code that if that oath is broken and it's been determined that you don't hold your allegiance to the United States anymore, that you've come out publicly saying that you support whatever country you came from, or just maybe some other country entirely. Maybe not the country you came from. Maybe you're giving your allegiance to, I don't know, Palestine, for instance. But if you became a U.S. citizen by taking the exam and all that stuff, you probably can be thrown out of the country. I'm sure it's written in there somewhere that if you ended up lying about the oath that you took to become an American citizen, yeah, they should. And they probably can throw you the hell out of the country. Ilhan Omar collapses in fear as Trump orders the takeover of Minnesota. Really?
There are moments in American politics when the ground doesn't just shake, it breaks.
That's all right.
And
it's
in Minnesota,
whatever.
Over the past few days, the break has been loud enough to rattle Washington, terrify Ilhan Omar's inner circle, and trigger one of the most aggressive federal responses we've seen in years. Because what investigators uncovered wasn't just fraud. It wasn't just corruption. It wasn't even just another welfare scandal. It was something far darker. Minnesota taxpayer money traced into the hands of a foreign terrorist organization.
Yep.
And the moment President Trump got briefed, he didn't hesitate. he didn't stall. He ordered what some are calling a direct federal takeover of the situation, including an immediate termination of protected status for nearly 1,000 Somali nationals. And when Ilhan Omar heard it, her reaction said everything. The panic, the denial, the collapse. Today, we're going to break down exactly what happened, why Minnesota erupted, how the fraud was tied to terror, and why Trump's response is sending shockwaves through the political world. So let me walk you through this step by step, because what's unfolding right now isn't just a Minnesota story, it's a turning point for the entire country. You know, when I first heard about this, my initial thought was, how does something this big stay hidden for so long? How do you have fraud at this scale with this many people involved and it doesn't trigger alarms earlier? But then you start looking at the details and you realize this wasn't an accident. This wasn't a few bad actors slipping through the cracks. This was a coordinated network operating in plain sight, exploiting every loophole they could find.
Hang on just one second. I gotta check something real quick. Hold on. Let me just open up this post. Let me just take a look. I was wondering. I think this is AI. I think this is AI. I've never seen Elon Musk talk with a fake background like this. The way that he's speaking so quickly, that doesn't add up to me. Elon usually takes at least like 1 to 3 second pauses in between, I would say like paragraphs of worth of speech. I don't believe this is actually Elon Musk. The video may be AI, but the message is fact. All the fraud is coming to light. Okay, should we just play it out anyway? Look, just take it with an enormous grain of salt. I'm calling this out as being AI, but whatever. I'll play the rest of it
There are
anyway.
moments in American politics when the ground doesn't just shake, it breaks. And why Trump's response is sending shockwaves through the political world. So let me. You know, when I first heard about this, my initial thought was, how does something this big stay hidden for so long? How do you have fraud at this scale with this many people involved and it doesn't trigger alarms earlier? But then you start looking at the details and you realize this wasn't an accident. This wasn't a few bad actors slipping through the cracks. This was a coordinated network operating in plain sight, exploiting every loophole they could find. And that's what makes it so alarming. Because when investigators finally connected the dots, they didn't just find stolen welfare dollars, they found a pipeline. A system that was funneling American taxpayer money overseas, straight into territories controlled by one of the most dangerous terrorist groups in East Africa. Think about that for a second. Programs designed to help hungry kids, seniors who need housing support,
hundreds of millions of
families
dollars
struggling
worth
to make
too.
ends meet, all of it getting hijacked and redirected.
That is something
Not
they're
just
uncovering. That's
stolen
not
for
AI.
personal gain.
That's a
though
real
there was plenty
statement.
of that too, but actually flowing into the hands of people who actively want to harm us. Now, the scale of what we're talking about here is staggering. Federal prosecutors have filed charges against somewhere between 70 and 80 individuals.
Well, wait a minute. You remember the other day when there was footage of these Muslims up in Dearborn, Michigan, chanting "Death to America," and apparently the mayor of Dearborn came out and said that they were against that statement. They didn't support what they were saying. And then I think even like the governor also said the same thing. So anybody who chants "Death to America," especially when they're on camera doing so, how are they not getting immediately apprehended and deported? Like, why should there be any period of time in between that statement and their deportation? And why should it even be a conversation whether or not if they are to get deported?
So far. And we're not talking about small-time theft. The total amount involved? Well over $250 million. Let that sink in. $250 million, maybe more, taken from
Yeah,
programs
that's about the
meant
number
to
I
feed
heard
children
too.
and house
It was in the
vulnerable
hundreds of
Americans.
millions.
And here's the thing that really gets me. This wasn't a sophisticated, high-tech operation. It wasn't hackers breaking into secure databases or...
No, a lot of it was just, it was healthcare fraud. It was a bunch of kids, Somali kids, that were going to these clinics. Their parents were sending them to these clinics to get diagnosed with autism when they never had autism. Those clinics are not legitimate clinics. They're filing fraudulent claims to Medicare or Medicaid, whatever, and they're getting millions and millions of dollars worth of quote-unquote aid for these children's autism, of which they don't have any autism, but instead of the money going to these children or the families, they're going directly over to Somalia to these terrorist organizations. That's what the federal government's uncovering right now.
Masterminds manipulating complex financial instruments. It was simpler than that. And in some ways, that makes it worse. Because it means the systems we have in place, the safeguards we assume are protecting taxpayer money, they just weren't working. Or maybe they were being ignored. Let me give you an example of how brazen this whole thing was. There was one operation, they called it Safari Restaurant, that claimed to be serving thousands of meals every single day. We're talking about feeding what would amount to a small army of children 7 days a week. But when investigators looked at their actual food expenses, barely a couple $1,000s. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to feed a large group of people, but I can tell you, you can't feed an army on that kind of budget. You just can't.
No, not
The
even
math
with
doesn't
Aldi.
work. But it can disguise something else entirely. It can create the appearance of a legitimate operation.
All right. You know, speaking of Aldi, I do have a local Aldi that's like a mile and a half from my house, but they're opening up another one that's not even 2 miles from my house, and it opens on December the 10th. It's going to be double the size of the Aldi that I've already been shopping at. Really excited about that. They just announced that over the weekend. Okay, so yeah, totally AI, in my opinion, but it doesn't mean that what was said in that video was wrong. I mean, I definitely don't agree with, you know, the medium as to which they were to get that information out, even though it did get 22,000 likes and almost 300,000 views. Okay, anyway, Kentucky girl, it's not just Ilhan Omar. There are other Congress members who openly put the interests of foreign countries above those of the USA. They all need to go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yep, it just makes you wonder if they say things that are anti-American, especially if they are not natural-born American citizens, then why the hell are they still here? Why don't they get orders to have their citizenship stripped from them and then sent back to where they came from? All right. Anyway, Mr. Guns SN Gear, not sure how you pronounce that. Anyway, solid video here from Alpha News exposing the marriage fraud, immigration fraud, witness intimidation, and racketeering crimes committed by Rep. Ilhan Omar. Again, her husband is currently valued at $30 million. Maybe I should look into that real quick. But anyway, so this 3-minute video just scratches the surface of the crimes committed by the Congresswoman. She should be facing criminal charges at a minimum, and in a sane world, her citizenship would be revoked, as she also came to this country under false pretenses. Her dad was a communist military officer, 06 equivalent, not exactly your typical refugee, but I'll settle for removal from Congress and imprisonment. Let me move that out of the way. A bunch of hashtags, so we'll give this a watch, and then I'll look into her husband's finances and how much they might actually be
Minnesota
worth.
Democrats, media, and the Department of Justice have continually ignored strong evidence supporting the fact that Ilhan Omar may be directly involved in tax, marriage, and immigration fraud.
In 2002, Omar married Ahmed Hirsi in a religious ceremony. Hirsi is the father of Omar's 3 children, and is pictured often with Omar and their children on their campaign website.
In 2016, Minnesota journalist Scott Johnson received a tip about a post from a Somali community website containing marriage certificates alleging Omar married her brother, Elmi, in February 2009, in order for him to immigrate to the U.S. legally, despite the facts she'd been married to the father of her children, Hirsi, over a decade.
This clearly proved that any such second marriage might be bigamous under Minnesota law, as well as fraudulent.
Later in August 2016, further investigations into legal documents and filings in Minnesota by journalist Priya Samsundar uncovered evidence supporting the allegation that Ilhan Omar married her brother, Ahmed Nursed Elmi, in 2009.
The 2009 marriage license to Elmi lists the same address as one filed for a Minnesota business 3 months later in May 2009 for a one-to-one cafe by Hirsi, the father of Omar's 3 children.
That means Ilhan Omar was living with both her real husband Hirsi while still married to her brother Elmi.
Omar has continued to deny the allegations, dismissing them as baseless rumors and fake journalists on bigot blogs despite mounting evidence.
High school record evidence also support the claim that Elmi is indeed her brother and graduated in 2003 from Arlington Senior High School in St. Paul, Minnesota, with enrollment records that state he was born April 4th, 1985. The same birth date listed on Omar's 2009 marriage certificate to Elmi.
As troubling details mounted against Omar, members of the Somali community were threatened into silence through intimidation tactics and physical violence on themselves and their families still back in Somalia. In an obtained Facebook Live video from August 18, 2016, a woman identified as the Associate Chair of the Somali American Caucus speaks. And in translation, she states in plain terms that any Somali that talks about Omar's personal life, including marriage discrepancies, is an enemy of the Somali community. Credible sources in the Somali community have stepped forward and provided Alpha News with information in exchange for anonymity, along with members of the 2003 class have also identified Elmi's father as
Nur said, Elmi Mohammed, the same man who calls himself father to Ilhan Omar.
Well. All right. Okay, so I was just asking Grok a few things here. Go ahead and bring this in and start back up here to the top. Just a few, just basic questions, really. All right. How much is Ilhan Omar's husband worth? Short answer, Tim Minette. Ilhan Omar's husband has an estimated net worth of between $6 to $25 million, primarily from his stakes in a venture capital firm, Rose Lake Capital, valued at $5 to $25 million, and a California winery, thru Wines, valued between $1 and $5 million per Omar's 2024 congressional financial disclosure filed in 2025. This drives the couple's joint net worth to $6 to $30 million, up sharply from under $163,000 just about 2 years ago. Older estimates pegged him at $1.3 million, but recent filings reflect business growth. Yeah, a little more than growth. I'd call it a freaking explosion. How did he earn so much in less than 2 years? So Tim Minette's net worth surged via explosive valuations of his two firms in 2024. Rose Lake Capital jumped from less than $1,000 up to $5 to $25 million, likely from major investments or deals. thru Wines rose from $15,000 to $50,000 to $1 to $5 million post-lawsuit settlement. What lawsuit? No public specifics on exact transactions, but disclosures show 3,500% growth tied to these assets. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, look, the average person, even if they're extremely financially savvy, nobody's going to explode their net worth by 3,500% in just 2 years unless they got extremely lucky through, like, I don't know, crypto or winning the freaking lottery. So what about Ilhan Omar's personal net worth if you don't include the husband? So Ilhan Omar's personal net worth estimated between, I guess, negative 82,000. That's how I'm reading it, to positive 65,000 per her 2024 disclosure. Assets include retirement funds, $15,000 to $50,000 pension, a $15,000 to $50,000 target retirement, and a $1,000 to $15,000 MFS fund in savings of $1,000 to $15K, offset by $15,000 to $50K student loans, no real estate, stocks, or other major holdings. So why would they have student loans even though you got to pay interest on it? Why would you even have those debts if your husband's worth millions, literally millions of dollars? That doesn't make much sense to me. Do Congress members get a pension? I knew they did, but I couldn't remember how long it was. So you must serve at least 5 years to be vested. So Ilhan Omar, she's served 7, so she's going to be getting a pension. How do you like that? How much is your pension if you serve 10 years, though? So you get almost $30,000 if you serve 10 years in Congress. So, and I think it said 62 years old. Yeah, it starts at 62 years of age. How much is the full amount if you take the full amount? The full amount cap salary is $174,000. 20 years is almost $60,000 a year that you would get in a pension if you served in Congress. That is quite a handsome pension indeed. Okay, moving to, let's see, Elizabeth Warren. Never mind. This is under my bookmarks. Hold on. Let me go back to... Okay, yeah, here we are. All right, Anna, this lady is spot on. Ilhan Omar's arrogant defense just put a giant spotlight on the Somali TPS fund, and now President Trump is ripping it away. TPS, by the way, is temporary protected status, and they have zero gratitude, endless entitlement, trashing America while living off our taxes. TPS is officially terminated. The rude house guests gotta go. America first. Well, not to mention the widespread scamming and the widespread fraud, and a lot of them were engaged in doing shitload of ballot harvesting back in 2020, probably in 2024 also. So let's give this a listen.
You know what's interesting about the Somalian deportation? They want to remove the protective order. The person they need to blame is Ilhan Omar, because basically she brought so much negative attention because she's so arrogant. And the problem that these people don't understand is gratitude. Because basically it would be like you inviting someone over for dinner and then them complaining about the food and then refusing to leave, saying, we're not going anywhere. It's so
Right?
rude and gross. And you know what? Like, nobody cares about your cause. Everybody just wants you to leave because we're so sick of this entitled
there's some
attitude
people
to
that are
our
fighting for.
taxpayer money. Again, you invite someone over and they're like, give me your paycheck. I'm not leaving. And by the way, your house is a mess. These people actually are crazy. But you know what? Just like everybody else, you're gonna get out. And someone like me can't wait.
Yeah, and you know what? If you ask Ilhan Omar straight up, like, what do you think the odds are that you're going to get kicked out of the country? I bet she'll just instantly give you a flat 0. No, there's no chance. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving anywhere. I'm not going to go anywhere. Yeah, because she's most likely protected by the establishment, protected by the Democrat Party, so on and so forth. Gunther Eagleman, Ilhan Omar's victim card meltdown. There's hate everywhere from Muslims, blacks, black women, immigrants. I check all the boxes. Time to deport this fraud, of course. Always got to jump into those identity politics
Why
on
do you
CNN.
think Nancy Mace is targeting you as much as she is?
It's an easy
Gotta make
clickbait.
everything a race issue.
There is a lot of hate
Everything a
in this
gender
country
issue.
for Muslims. There's a lot of hate in this country for black people, especially black women. And
Why would you
there's
live
a lot
here?
of hate, severe hate for immigrants.
Not that there is
And
severe
so I
hate.
fit them all. She knows that she can easily raise money and get support for her bigotry from her bigoted, the bigoted people who want to give money to her campaign. But the reality is,
No, the reality is the only people that talk about race all the time are fucking Democrats. The only people who are racist are Democrats. Republicans don't talk about that. Conservatives, they don't talk about that shit because they don't care about identity politics. That is 100% coming from the left. All right, well, fine, 99% coming from the left. I'm sure there's a few outliers that are like extreme conservatives. I'm sure that live in certain parts of the country that I'm not aware of. But the vast, vast, vast majority, it ain't a thing. That is all happening over on the Democrat side. It always has been.
in this country, the First Amendment does not only protect speech, it protects the right and liberty for anybody to practice
Do you even fucking know? Did you really have to think about that?
their faith.
Miss Congresswoman?
I do practice the Muslim faith. I am an immigrant. I am proud of both of those things. And I was, of course, born.
Well, how much does she really practice the Muslim faith? Does anybody have any footage of her and her husband in public together? Does she walk, like 2, 3, or 5 steps behind her husband everywhere they go? That she's not allowed to talk to anybody, especially a male, anywhere in public at all, unless her husband gives a explicit permission to do so, that she has to be, if she's going to be out in public, she has to be with a male brother or first cousin or close relative if it's not her husband. I mean, does she ever talk to anybody on the floor of Congress who happens to be a man? Because that's not, look, I'm no expert on practicing or being a practicing Muslim, but and maybe that's only Sharia law. There's probably different levels and extremes when it comes to practicing the Muslim faith. I don't know. I just know that that's an element of it. And like wearing the hijab, and I'm sure that they probably practice elements of that where like the women are not allowed to talk to strange men or stranger men that are in Somalia. If I were to take a wild guess, that's probably the case, but I highly doubt she's doing that.
In Somalia, which the president likes to mention. And I'm also proud of my Somali heritage, and that is not something that they can take away from me. And I just want to say, one thing that the president should understand is that you can't impeach a sitting member of Congress. And it is unfortunate.
Yeah, but part of being an American citizen or becoming an American citizen, you have to denounce your any allegiance to any other country, including the country you came from. I didn't take the citizenship exam, but I'm pretty sure that's in there.
That the members of Congress have not educated their uneducated president about how things work in Congress.
Yeah, President Trump, multi-billionaire. He's so uneducated. Let's go BFLO. Actually, what school? Well, no, I probably shouldn't go there. She probably did go to some university or something. I was about to say, well, what fucking school does she go to? All right, there seems to be some solid evidence that Ilhan Omar married her brother and thereby committed immigration fraud. Why hasn't Secretary Noam and AG Pam Bondi seriously investigated this or provide a reason why they haven't looked into it? That's a very good question. I would love to know the answer to that, too.
Minnesota Democrats, media, and the Department of Justice have continually ignored strong evidence supporting the fact that Ilhan Omar may
Did we
be
already hear
directly
this?
involved
I think we already got
in
this.
tax marriage.
Hold on. Yeah, I think we already saw this. Yeah, I think that was from earlier. Anyway, if I'm mistaken, I'm reposting it. There's a link to my profile in the description below. Direct link. Anyway, Eyal Yacobi. Ilhan Omar called the president of Somalia our president at a Minneapolis rally. Somalia is our home. It is our heart. We always think about Somalia. She is literally a sitting U.S. congresswoman. Yeah, I think she knows what she's doing. She's walking a really fine line. I don't think by saying that, well, look, Somalia is our home. Well, that's an outright lie, but that's not really denouncing America, I would say, like specifically within those 4 words. It is our heart. I mean, yeah, if you're from a certain country, yeah, you got, I'm sure, a piece of your heart left back in that country. We always think about Somalia. I'm not sure why you're always thinking about Somalia, because you fled Somalia. Did she very, very reluctantly move away from Somalia, or did she literally flee? She probably fled.
caawa aan fursad u helay madaxweynaheena madaxweynaha Soomaaliya madaxweyne Xasan Sheikh Maxamuud inaan maanta ku soo dhaweyno Minneapolis. aniga iyo madaxweynaha special relationship aan qabnaa. aniga adeeraan ugu wacaa asigana gabarteeyu idhahaa.
Aren't Democrats supposed to be anti-segregation? Aren't they supposed to be like vehemently against segregation? And if that's the case, then how does she get elected over and over? Like, what percentage of individuals in her constituency are Somali or Muslims? And if it's a sizable or a majority of the percentage, then why are Democrats segregating Muslims in Minneapolis?
madaxweyne sidii qof kasta
Sounds like
uu
some
yiri
gerrymandering going on.
mininkaaga waaye ku soo dhawow Minneapolis. aad iyo aad aan ugu faraxsanahay in maanta madaxweynaheena aad tahay.
I actually do find it kind of hilarious, though, that they send Somalians that are like probably not that far from the equator. I doubt they see snow very often in Somalia. And when they immigrated over here to the United States, they relocated them to fucking Minnesota. That cracks me up, man. The same with Dearborn, Michigan. It's like, yeah, put them as far up north as you can.
Soomaaliya dadka meeshaan wada joogo dhan waa gurigooda. annaga ma dareensannihin in ay naga tahay meel naga fog. Soomaaliya wadnaheenay ku nooshahay, qalbigeenay ku jirtaa, maalin kasta aan ka fikirnaa Soomaaliya.
We always think about Somalia. Always thinking about Somalia. Benny Johnson knew. President Trump says Ilhan Omar should be thrown the hell out of the country. So we already got that. Urson, Ilhan Omar wasn't some poor, oppressed refugee that America rescued. Her family was part of the authoritarian Somali government that was forced out of the country. They weren't the oppressed. They were the oppressors. Makes sense now? Oh, so maybe she did have some fancy pants education.
Let's take Ilhan Omar as an example, okay? She comes from a family, and they call her a refugee who came from Somalia, right? They call her a refugee.
She calls her a refugee.
Were the governing party, the Marxist Islamist government in Somalia, who were overthrown and then fled. Now, technically, that makes her a refugee.
Why would that be our problem?
She wasn't fleeing oppression.
Is that tied back to our involvement in 1993, like in the movie Black Hawk Down? Maybe that has something to do with it.
Rather, her family weren't fleeing oppression. They were fleeing justice. They were fleeing their own people, holding them to account for the dictatorship that they had established.
Yeah, what was it that they were engaged in? What kind of atrocities did Ilhan Omar's family, what were they wrapped up in?
So you have people like the Omar family and what...
Hold on a minute. So Marxism, Somalia, where she grew up, went through extreme strife following independence in 1960. Omar's family worked for the dictator Siad Barre, the leader of the Revolutionary Socialist Party. Well, of course she's a socialist. Barre was a Leninist who attempted to merge Quranic dictats with those of Karl Marx. He fled the country in 1991 after being overthrown. Her family left at the same time, finding refuge in Kenya. Then a few years later, finding her way to America. An ominous foreshadowing way, the first thing Omar recalls telling her father is, "This doesn't look like the America you promised." Maybe it was a false promise from her family who worked for a socialist dictator back home. Maybe it was fundamentalist Quranic interpretations. Omar recalls her family complaining about not being able to wear their hijabs growing up. Or maybe it was both.
They come to America and see America and go, okay, this is pretty cool. They're not oppressing each other. Let's be part of this. No, they go, hey, how can we oppress them?
Yeah, exactly.
How can we bring
what can we do to
Marxism
change it to our
America?
liking?
That's the thought process, and it may be a passive thought process, but it's the thought process.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, if it's determined that that is their thought process, that they don't want to openly admit that they are willing and able and excited about assimilating into American culture, then send them home, because they obviously don't want to be Americans if they don't want to assimilate into American culture. One bad dude, Pete Hegseth, absolutely nails it. Ilhan Omar fled the oppression of a dictator to come to America and called Donald Trump a dictator. Yeah, isn't that ironic? She knows it's a lie. She knows what a real dictator looks like. She just doesn't care. I feel like the only proper response is to deport her so she can go back to living under a dictatorship. Be careful what you wish for.
Say to her, I think I wrote in the back of the sheet. Here we go. She was born in Somalia, right? She represents Minneapolis. The president of Somalia, the Somalian...
I don't know, she represents Minneapolis. I think she represents a bunch of Muslims that happen to be living in Minneapolis, but maybe I'm wrong.
Democratic Republic. His name was Mohammed Said Barre. He really was a dictator, and he ran Somalia into the ground. And as a result, America opened its arms after that civil war and welcomed thousands, tens of thousands of those people to our country, a place of peace and a place of democratic values. And she has the audacity to look us in the eye and say that President Trump is a dictator? It's insane, and it should be infuriating to everybody. And it's a lack of perspective about how special this country is. That we have a constitution that's endured for 240 years. President Trump is doing the best he can.
I don't have many things to say to Ilhan Omar other than if you don't like it here, if you think that we're doing such a bad job, go back to the country that you fled. And I know that a lot of conservatives will say the exact same thing. Do not try to mold us in your image.
Shit, I'm muted. So, like, she doesn't even have to go back to Somalia necessarily. How many countries are there in the world? Like 195 different countries? There's plenty of other countries out there you can go to. Plenty of countries where they don't allow all their citizens to have guns or give a Bill of Rights to their citizens. There's plenty of other countries where you can go and choose from.
You left that image. Go back. That's all I have to say, my opinion.
Yep, go back. That's it. Go back. So let me ask this question real quick about Ilhan Omar's district. Let me just see what it comes up with. No, the majority are not Muslims. Let's see. Total population, 707,000. Racial ethnic background, about 64% are white. So I guess to break that down, what percentage of them would be liberals? I'm sure it's extremely heavy. 17% Black, African American, non-Hispanic, 5% Asian, 11% Hispanic to Latino. District is the most racially diverse in Minnesota, with 36% of people of color overall. 16% of residents are foreign-born, the highest rate in the state. Major countries include Somalia, Ethiopia, Mexico, India, okay, so on and so forth. Wait, hold on. So Somali Americans, the largest Muslim subgroup in the district, numbering around 27,600. You know, I think if someone were to ask me that, how many Muslims or how many Somalis would you predict that live in Minnesota? I would have said probably a much higher number than that. I probably would have said something like maybe 100,000 or something. So that's honestly not as big of a number as I thought. I mean, it doesn't mean it's not an issue. So they're concentrated in Minneapolis' Cedar Riverside neighborhood. Other Muslim groups, additional Muslims from Ethiopia, which I think that's where Ilhan Omar came from after she fled Somalia. 5 to 6% of the population. That adds roughly 10 to 15,000 more Muslims. Let's see, 5 to 8% are Muslims. So let's see, about 56,000, up to 56,000 people. Okay, yeah, so my assumption was wrong. I figured that a sizable amount, if not an outright majority, of the district she's representing would be either Muslims or Somalians or both or what have you. Okay, so Sons of Liberty, MAGA movement. Billions went into Democrats' pockets from the billions supposedly going to Ukraine. Lots of cash went to Bitcoin, untraceable money for the Democrats. Ilhan Omar does not belong in government. She's a treason. She hates Americans. Show her arrest. Enough is enough. All right. Not sure about all that. Okay, so
Ilhan Omar.
Play one of these. Let's see.
Ilhan Omar made the biggest mistake of her political career. She accused Attorney General Pam Bondi of weaponizing justice against Muslims on live TV. Bondi's response...
Okay, whatever. I think that's like some AI whatever. Let me see what this is.
Tuan, Omar, and 71
All right, whatever. I'm not going to play that out because, 164 likes. Not sure. Here, let me just at least see this one.
I'm hearing...
All right, this is somebody talking.
So I'm hearing from multiple
somebody
sources, and I'm seeing other individuals post their reports online that the Trump administration is about to focus immigration deportation efforts here in Minnesota, specifically Immigrations and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol coming into Minnesota like they have in other states to begin to drop the hammer on those that are here illegally. Now, we already saw a raid that took place in St. Paul earlier this week. It turns out the individual was a felon, broken into the country multiple times, and had a rap sheet.
That's who they're primarily still targeting.
That being said, here in Minnesota, there is a complete lack of enforcement of our immigration laws under Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, and attorneys like Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty. So who knows how many individuals are actually known to be living here illegally as immigrants in Minnesota that ICE and Border Patrol could be targeting. But I want to add one more element to this as well, and that is a report that came out about a month or so ago. It was a while back, but it was a month or two ago, and it basically laid out that some 50% of a certain demographic of immigrants here in Minnesota had immigrated to the country via marriage fraud. Now, if this information is known and they have the data, and it's something that Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison has simply ignored, then there's a big possibility that Immigrations and Customs Enforcement along with Border Patrol could come in and clean Minnesota's house of individuals that are here living fraudulently through sham marriages.
Well, not to mention how much money from the taxpayers have they been getting through whatever benefits that they're getting, whether if it's welfare or what have you.
Anybody?
And will they have to pay that back?
I'll certainly be staying on top of this story here on the platform. I hope you'll follow me, and it'll absolutely be a topic of continued conversation on my weekly radio show, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9 a.m. Central Time on the iHeartRadio app. You can also listen to the podcast at any time on the iHeartRadio app. And again, I hope you'll follow me here on the platform. I'd really appreciate it.
Okay. I'm not familiar with him. He's on iHeartRadio. He lives in Minnesota, so he's probably not, like completely wrong with what he's talking about. I'm sure he knows what he's talking about. Farm Girl Carrie, most people don't realize what Trump just did to Ilhan Omar, and Victor Davis Hanson is here to sort it all out. Yeah, I enjoy listening to this dude. He's sometimes on, I've seen him on Fox News before. I'm sure he's probably been on Newsmax. He probably does his rounds around on cable news, but I mean, this dude's a pretty wise man.
There are moments in politics when something happens and most people only catch the headline. What just happened in Minnesota is one of those moments. Because while many Americans saw a headline about Trump ending a program for Somali immigrants, very few understood why he did it, how it connects to Ilhan Omar's district, and what kind of investigation triggered it behind the scenes. This isn't a small administrative adjustment. This is a decisive move aimed at dismantling a network that federal investigators say has been draining taxpayer funds, rerouting money overseas, and destabilizing an entire region of the state. Trump just shut down a program affecting hundreds of people tied to a fraud network with somewhere between 250 and 300 million. And somehow all of it circles back to Minneapolis and a political figure whose district is
that money's
now
probably
under
already
more
gone.
scrutiny
It's already
than
been sent.
at any time in recent memory. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened, why so few outlets are explaining the real reason behind Trump's decision, and why this could reshape the political future of Ilhan Omar and Minnesota as a whole. And I want to do this in a way that makes sense, because this story matters to every American who pays taxes. who trust their government to manage programs honestly, and who wonders what happens when those systems break down. So let's start at the beginning. What actually triggered all of this? What made the President of the United States look at one state, one community, and say enough? Trump announced he was terminating something called temporary protected status for Somali immigrants living in Minnesota, effective immediately. Now, if you're not familiar with TPS, it's essentially a legal shield the government grants to people from countries facing disaster or conflict. It allows them to stay in America
By the way, I'm getting AI
without
vibes again.
fear of deportation. It's meant to be compassionate, humane, a safety net for people fleeing genuine danger. But here's where things took a hard turn. Trump cited large-scale welfare fraud, money laundering, and the discovery that millions of taxpayer dollars had been funneled into overseas networks, some even reaching extremist groups, according to federal reports. He wasn't just ending a program, he was responding to something much bigger, much darker, that had been unfolding for years. Now, before we dive into the political
This is so obviously
fallout,
AI. Okay, all right. Now that doesn't mean that he didn't make that statement at some point. Victor Hansen. So 650. I'm sure the comments are going to be littered with that. I mean, just the way his eyes were blinking, the way that like his shoulders were lifting randomly like they were. I mean, like definitely AI vibes for sure. But it sounds like his voice, which AI is good at that at this point. Yeah, this is AI. The best methods to detect it, just open your eyes and watch it closely. But still, like it sounds like something that he would say that he spoke in that manner. Never seen him wear a hat like that before. That was my first thought. It was like, wait a minute, this isn't usually his getup. Okay, so I guess we'll just roll on to the next one. I guess there's really no telling. When it's trending like this, and then you're going through just the top. I mean, it really could, anything could show up on the feed, really. Eric Doherty, Rep. Ilhan Omar. There's a lot of hate in this country for Muslims, Black people, Black women. Severe hate for immigrants. I fit them all. I think we already heard that one. Yeah, we already heard that one. So, one bad dude, Ilhan Omar, has come to this country to take your guns. Oh, yeah, we heard that one. Yep, she wants to take our guns. Let's see. LMAO, President Trump takes another jab at Ilhan Omar about marrying her brother, saying that it's true. Okay, we heard that one. What are the gun laws currently in Minnesota? Just out of curiosity. I know Minnesota's been a pretty deep blue state for decades. Decades and decades. Like going back to, I think it was Minnesota that was the only state that Richard Nixon didn't win. Like, what was it, his second term? Like, every single state in the country went red. I think Minnesota's the only one that didn't. The same with Ronald Reagan. Let's see. Permits to carry. Oh, it's a shall issue state. Loaded, unloaded, valid 5 years. You must be 21. Let's see. So open carry, legal without permit for long guns, but banned in public places. Wait, banned in public places? What? So you can legally carry without a permit for long guns, but just nowhere in public. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Gross misdemeanor handguns require a PTC. Assault weapons restricted for under 21 in public. I thought it said like you can't carry a gun anywhere in public. Or long gun. Universal background checks for all sales. Okay, I mean that's kind of standard. Assault weapons ban 2023. No high capacity magazines, 30 rounds. Red flag law, extreme risk orders. Guns prohibited for domestic abusers under orders. Well, I think that's already the federal standard, isn't it? That if you have domestic violence on your record, you're not allowed to possess a firearm, at least according to the law. Report lost stolen guns. No stand your ground. Oh man, that sucks. That's yet another thing I get to enjoy in the state of Florida. We're a stand your ground state. Preemption for most laws. No bans on suppressors or NFA items beyond federal rules. 2025 session passed. No major changes. Okay, well, yeah, they're a bit restrictive. It's definitely not open carry or concealed carry without the permission of the government. President Trump. Okay, we got that. Let's see. Rep. Brandon Gill calls for Ilhan Omar's deportation back to Somalia. He demands the revocation of her citizenship and her removal from the U.S. Do you agree with this? Let's see. Ilhan Omar committed fraud to come to America by marrying her brother. A Somalian American leader threatened Somalians if they spoke about the fact Ilhan did this, expel from Congress, denaturalize, and deport. Really?
In an obtained Facebook Live video from August 18, 2016, a woman identified as the Associate Chair of the Somali American Caucus speaks. And in translation, she states in plain terms that any Somali that talks about Omar's personal life, including marriage discrepancies, is an enemy of the Somali community. Credible sources in the Somali community have stepped forward and provided Alpha News with information in exchange for anonymity, along with members of the 2003 class have also identified Elmi's father as
Nur said, Elmi Mohammed, the same man who calls himself father to Ilhan Omar.
Well, look, why doesn't the Somali community just put somebody forward who didn't marry their brother or who didn't break the law to get into the country? If they really want a Somali to represent them in Congress, why don't they just find somebody who's actually legit for a change? It's the same everywhere. Hamza Yousaf in Scotland, Ilhan Omar in America, Zahra Sultana and Matin Ali in the UK, and Marine Farqui and Fatima Paiman in Australia. They all hate the countries that adopted them, yet we tolerate them. I know. It's absolutely just baffling.
A dress code might be a choice of the senators, but racism should not be the choice of the Senate.
Why is she shouting? Look at this. What the hell?
This is a racist.
Dude, racism wasn't an issue until they made it
Senator displaying blatant racism in Islamophobia.
Always the leftist. Trying to throw a wrench in our society by injecting racism into everything.
Someone should pull her up on that.
Senator Faruqi.
And it is you in the chair. You should be pulling her up on that.
How do we let this happen? Look at her. Look at the way she's
Where's her husband?
As I said,
He needs to show up and just
Pauline
backhand
Hanson
her.
is a legend. I love her. I love Pauline Hanson. There's more of her. Have a listen.
Moments ago, One Nation's Pauline Hanson walked into the Senate wearing a burqa. What happened today was nothing.
I mean, isn't that kind of baffling though? Like, these are all a bunch of Muslim women that are running for office, and they're in elected positions, which is really, like, I'm sure as far as the Muslim community goes, or the Islam community, that would be like a pretty alpha position, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be something that the patriarch should be doing? Isn't that like a patriarchy kind of thing to hold a position of power like that? Because she's holding a position of power over hundreds of thousands of men. That just baffles me. Like, where are all these Muslim men running for office, and why aren't they running for office? Look, I don't know the UK politics, Australian, the other Western countries. Maybe there are. Maybe there's quite a few Muslim men, like Zohran Mamdani. There's him. I'm just pointing out the fact that there's a lot of Muslim women that are in these positions, and it just doesn't sound like something that would be traditionally accepted in the Muslim culture or whatever.
Short of blatant racism.
That's not racism. Well done, Pauline.
Islamophobia.
Islamophobia is a bullshit word
Buzzword.
used by cowards
Buzzword.
for buffoons. I butchered Christopher Hitchens' quote, but you get the point.
And it's not the first.
Doesn't have to do with your religious background. It has to do with you as a person.
This time, the Senate has now been suspended after Senator Hanson refused to leave the chamber. It was almost 10 years ago since Senator Hanson pulled this pathetic stunt the first time.
Wonderful stunt.
Back then, there were no Muslim women in the Senate. Well, we are here now, and we're not letting this disgusting hate.
I hope Pauline Hanson does it again. Do it again. Do every day, Pauline.
Slide. Straight from rubbing shoulders with fascist billionaires and the far right in the US.
Shut up, yeah. So Pauline Hanson recently
bullshit,
attended
man.
Trump's Halloween party at
It's
Mar-a-Lago.
fucking Marxist.
And that upset a lot of these clowns. So let me show you a little bit more of who this woman is. Apart from
For the record, I have no idea who she is. It sounds like we're taking kind of a right turn away from Ilhan Omar, at least in the moment.
Absolutely hideous and divisive and repulsive. She is a true racist. They have actually normalized.
Well, most of them are. Who are on the far left.
White people.
They're all racist.
Just have a listen to.
Well, let's
how
just say
she
99% of them
explains
probably
white
are.
people.
Just wow. We must be living in a parallel universe here. Honestly,
dude, if you make everything an identity politics issue, that, in my opinion, that would make you a bit racist.
You would have thought that many of the coalition MPs and senators and Labour MPs and senators, you would have thought that they would perhaps understand the meaning of burning down the house, given that many of you white people in here claim English as your first language.
Given that many of you white people claim English as your first language, like what the F? But see the patronization? See the tone? Like, what do you mean claim? Like, it is their first language.
Well, yeah, because on the far left, well, you're not racist if you're talking about white people. You can talk about white people all you want.
Clearly
that's not
yours
racist.
Isn't. She's actually covering for
but that's
radical,
different.
far left, woke, pro-Palestine politician, Lydia Thorpe. Look how disgustingly dishonest she is. She's basically saying that, no, she used it metaphorically. You white people who claim to have English as your first language should know this. Now, let me play that video to you, and you tell me.
Well, look, and the only way that they're able to get in these positions of power is by effectively brainwashing students for years and years in the public education system to the point where they don't even know what's up or down. They prey on their feelings and they prey on their dreams
From
and all that
over
shit.
the world, no matter where you are, because obviously you're familiar with the English language.
Oh, wouldn't it be nice if everybody was a millionaire?
Whether that was metaphorical or not. Listen to
Wouldn't it
this.
be nice if we were all rich?
Stand with you every day, and we will fight every day, and we will turn up every day. And if I have to burn down Parliament House to make a point.
Dude, these people are incapable of having one fucking good day. They cannot have a single good day. Like to the likes of like Elizabeth Warren, for instance, just pulling a number out of thin air. I doubt she has had a single legitimate, from morning to night, a good day. All nice words, nothing hateful, nothing evil, nothing vile. They're all incapable of any amount whatsoever of any kind of happiness at all. They have none.
I am not there to make friends.
If I have to
Misery loves
burn
company.
down Parliament House to make a point, she literally is making a point. This is not metaphorical.
Sounds like a call to action.
We attack Donald Trump? We have to fight the January 6th insurrection speech. And
why the fuck's that even their fight in the beginning?
How recently the BBC actually dishonestly stitched it up to make it sound like he was saying, let's go to the Capitol and we fight.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, when they're chopping it up beyond belief.
These clips showing the edited and original versions of a Trump speech have caused a major crisis.
Look, she said it openly. She's a Green senator, and this is who she was protecting. She's actually very racist. Let me show you some of her past tweets. There's a long way to go for proper representation of women, and particularly women of color in politics. We are sick and tired of chipping away at this wall of white privilege and patriarchy. It's time to bulldoze the wall down. If Australia was so
and drag the world into a third world hellhole
and had white privilege, then what the hell are you doing in Parliament? How did you get
complains?
There? How?
That's it. Nags.
It's not just
complains.
Her son is actually 10 times worse than her. Let me show you some of his tweets. This is her son, Usman Faruqi. Mediocre white people, they should be in the bin, but instead they own everything and are every fucking way. This is Zoran Mamdani.
It's called meritocracy,
The white
asshole.
people are getting effed. Yes, it's happening. He was saying that in 2016, 2017.
Why don't you quit complaining and actually do
Australians are
something?
a deeply conservative, insular, and
Do something
fearful
constructive.
people with a collective delusion that they are laid back.
Get
and
an engineering degree or something.
How
I don't
can
know.
people put up with this nonsense? He even wrote a book. Look at this. The Racist Country. He wrote a book in 2018.
All right. Well, anyway, that's straying a little far away from Ilhan Omar. He just mentioned, or her name was just mentioned in this post. I figured at some point he was going to stray over into Ilhan Omar, which I think he might have for a second in the beginning. But anyway, deport Ilhan Omar. Let's take a listen to this guy.
Are you a racist if you ask this question? Ilhan Omar married her own brother. A guy's name was Ahmed Nur Sid Almi. The marriage records didn't come out of nowhere. They're public, right? They tell you that she helped him get citizenship. If anyone else did that, would an ICE officer come to your door?
Say, oh, that's
but
okay.
Ilhan Omar, when she's not in Pakistan with her boyfriend Imran Khan, the terrorist, she can sit in Congress. Tell Trump, unlike you, I can read. No, unlike us, you terrorist, you get protected. Trump said what millions of American patriots feel but are too scared to say. If you
Well, like, what do people in Somalia, all these Somalian men that live in Somalia, what would they think about Ilhan Omar banging a whole bunch of different guys? I'm not saying she banged her husband, but it sounds like she's probably had at least a few different partners in her adult
lie
life.
to get into our country, if you cheat the system, if you trash the same nation that rescued you from those Somali terrorists, why should you stay here? America first means citizenship isn't a costume you borrow when it's convenient. Look at all these politicians in Dearborn, Michigan. Mass deportations is long overdue. Look at Minneapolis. Look at the crowds waving foreign flags, screaming, attacking our police, cheering anyone who hates America. And nobody asks the basic question, does allegiance to our American flag, to our American Constitution, still important? If Ilhan Omar actually committed immigration fraud, shouldn't denaturalization be on the table? Or is that racist of me to say? Shouldn't deportation still be on the table? Why are Americans punished harder than a Somali terrorist politician? America first means protecting our homeland here in the United States from people who openly despise it. Who's ready to start saying this out loud?
I mean, too many people are fucking brainwashed. They're electing people that are just absolutely just brain dead retarded and extreme. And they think that we can live in this magical like Jetsons world where we get to have robots do everything for us and everybody's just magically a millionaire. The socialism, it may have not worked anywhere else in the world, but it's totally going to work in America. Of course it's going to work here. All right, from Somalia to Congress via fake vows and fraud. Ilhan Omar's scam ends here. 25-year sentence, asset forfeiture, deportation, protecting borders means holding fraudsters accountable. No exceptions. I think, did we already see this? So why are you acting? All right, that's going to be copyrighted instantly. Is that all it is? Just the mugshot? All right, hold on. Maybe not. Maybe not. Let's see. Okay. All right. Give it a try.
So Ilhan Omar is back in the news again because of rumors that she married her brother to commit immigration fraud so he could stay in America. So there's some reports that the Justice Department has new evidence that proves that she married her brother so that way he could stay in the United States. And if this is true, I really hope that she gets thrown in jail and potentially has her citizen revoked because this is just bullcrap. There's also rumors.
Well, look, if they arrest her and they throw her in jail, what are the left going to do? How are they going to defend that if the Attorney General Pamela Bondi comes out and says, we have hard evidence, which we're going to show right now on screen. This is a marriage certificate. This is her brother. She married her brother. That's breaking our laws. Here it goes. She is thrown in jail. She's going to jail. Of course, they're going to defend her, but just think about how psychotic they're going to look to all the independents out there, the people who are not Republicans or Democrats, just normies, just everyday people who happen to hear this. Like, wait a minute, she married her brother and she got thrown in jail and y'all are pissed off about that. Why? It's only going to make them look just even more psychotic than they already look.
Rumors that the Biden administration
the left,
knew
that is.
that she did this. She committed marriage fraud and immigration fraud, and they did nothing about it. I haven't heard exactly what the new evidence is, but there is this marriage certificate that's on the top left. And they say the guy in the middle right there is her brother. So the guy on the right corner is her first husband, and they were in a religious marriage, which isn't documented. So during that time, apparently, she married her brother so that way he could stay in America. So this is all hearsay. Don't know if this is absolutely true or not.
Probably there too.
But there's rumors out there that this is going to be reported, and then she's actually going to be charged with marriage fraud and
you would
immigration
think.
fraud. So more to come. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. Look, she's going viral right now, but is AG Pam Bondi saying anything about this? I mean, are there any government officials that have actually come out and said anything with regard to this? I am not sure, but we'll take a look. Okay, that was November 28th. That was the day before yesterday, November 27th. So no, nothing from AG Pam Bondi. Let's see. about the Department of Justice. I don't think the FBI would probably chime in on this. It's possible, but I don't think so. So no there. 27th. Yeah, so nothing with regard to that. Let's see. I mean, this is a reach. I don't think anybody in the FBI is going to say anything. FBI Patel. Let's see. No, that's not related to Ilhan Omar. No, it's not coming up with anything. All right, so I'm trying to think. Like, maybe I doubt that Immigration and Customs Enforcement's gonna chime in on this either. Oh, an hour ago. Okay, so Ilhan, nope, nothing on Ilhan Omar there. Okay. No. Okay, here we go. Ilhan Omar defends herself against criticism in a CNN interview just 18 minutes ago. The Minnesota Democrat attributed recent criticism from Rep. Nancy Mason, former President Trump, to hate toward Muslims, black women, and immigrants. Trump has pushed unproven claims of her immigration fraud and pledged to end temporary protected status for Somalis in her district amid a major fraud scandal involving local nonprofits. Omar noted Congress members can't be impeached and highlighted her First Amendment rights as scrutiny intensifies over community issues and broader immigration debates. Look, she maybe, I don't know if that's true, if she can't be impeached, but she could certainly be arrested. She'd be arrested for fraud. I mean, I'm sure that's something that could be done. So anyway, that was 8 hours ago. So yeah, this must be the interview that they're talking about, which we already showed that at the beginning of this video. So that's probably going to be it for this video, I would think. Maybe there's something else. So LMAFO, Democrats are furious this morning that President Trump called Tim Walz a retard and mocked Ilhan Omar's swaddling hijab. Well, yeah, of course they're all pissed off about that. Amy Klobuchar, those words shouldn't even be repeated by anyone, much less a president of the United States. Yeah, President Trump knew what he was doing. That's why he used that word, because he knew it was going to trigger the left. Because President Trump, he's now, I don't know, I think he's already realized this, but he's certainly taken advantage of the fact that he's in his second term right now. There's not going to be a third term, so the gloves can come off. He can pretty much go in any direction he wants to go. If he wants to call a governor retarded, well, he's going to call the man retarded. And he did just that.
I do, before we move on, want to give you a chance to respond to something else that the president said. He said that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar probably came to the U.S. illegally, mocked the hijab that she wears, and he called your governor, quote, retarded.
Your governor's retarded.
These words shouldn't even be
They're
repeated
so
by
hateful.
anyone,
He's
much
a Nazi.
less a president
Oh my
of the
God.
United States. Again, he goes after
Called freedom of
people
speech, lady.
because they
Are
look
you
different
anti-free
than him.
speech?
He goes after our governor and uses a slur that, by the way, has now led a legislator in Indiana who has a kid with disabilities.
Yeah, one of the senators in Indiana, I talked about that the other day. He got all ass hurt about President Trump using the R word, and he's like, well, my daughter has Down syndrome, so I'm so offended that you used the R word to the point where I'm not going to be voting to allow Republicans to do any redistricting. Like he's willing to essentially give away his position with regard to redistricting, which Republicans are trying to do to try to level the playing field more fairly. And he's willing to throw all that away because President Trump used the R word. It's laughable, really.
Say that he's not going to vote with him on the redistricting vote in Indiana. These are the kinds of things he does. And
see how giddy she is about that? She's like, yes, we're so excited.
In the midterm election, it's not working.
Democrats might seize power after all.
They know who to blame. They don't want to see the chaos. They don't want to see the corruption. They mourn for the loss of this National Guard.
Dude, Trump is calling out the corruption, dumbass.
They do not believe you should use it to turn away 24 million people who are already in this country who are naturalized citizens.
Wait, 24 million people naturally? I don't know, whatever the fuck she's talking about. Joe Rogan Podcast News, Ilhan Omar, there's a lot of hate in this country for Muslims. I already got that. Worst 5 Democrats, James Woods' list, Gavin Newsom, slick lying operator, Adam Schiff, censured liar and all-around scum, Tim Walz, mincing moron and king of the blind eye to corruption, Nancy Pelosi, insider trading queen, and Ilhan Omar, brother humper. Good one, James Woods. That's a good one. To all my Somalis getting in their feelings about my video calling out Ilhan Omar, I am not jealous of her, never have, and never will be. This is 6 hours ago. Not sure who this is.
Let's get one thing straight. I am not jealous of Ilhan Omar because I'm not treacherous. I'm not a jihadist. I'm not a radical extremist. And I love this country. I love America. Unlike her, who hates this country. She loves Somalia first, then she does America. She's not proud to be an American. She's proud to be a Somali. That
alone should get you kicked out.
But she's not proud to be an American. So, no, I am not jealous of Ilhan Omar. The reason being is that right now, Ilhan Omar, she's riddled with scandal. My life is scandal-free. I'm not being accused of, lying on my immigration paperwork when I tried to apply for my citizenship. I didn't lie on my paperwork. I'm not being accused of marrying my brother, so that he can become a U.S. citizen. So I don't have any incestuous scandal, okay? I didn't go ahead and funnel American taxpayers' money into terroristic, organizations. I'm not being accused of that. And most of all, I'm not being hated by Americans because of my hate for Americans, because at the end of the day,
Amen.
America has done so much for Ilhan, and she wouldn't be the person she is today if it wasn't for America.
Yeah, got that
That's
right.
not somebody to be jealous of. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud of even my country of origin of Zambia. I'm proud of those things. But I don't sit here and start denigrating the country that has made me the person that I am today and that has made me flourish. No. So I got nothing to be afraid of. And when I came to America, I came through my hard work because I paid my dues, I filled out the application, I paid the fees, I bought my ticket, and I came to this country. I got my education overseas, okay? So I didn't come here under those conditions. I came here freely and I came here willfully. And it's paying off. And I don't ever take America for granted. That's the difference between myself and Ilhan. Maybe she should be jealous of me. And most importantly, the difference between Ilhan and myself and Ilhan, I've assimilated to American society and American way of life and the cultures. And I appreciate and I embrace that. Even when I go to other countries, even when I go to my own country, I'm always telling my fellow people how happy and how I appreciate America. And they know that. That's the big difference between Ilhan and myself. Okay?
Okay, man. That's a good one to finish off on. Amen. So, all right, if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It'll mean a lot to me if you subscribe. I do the Swamp Monday through Friday, which is a show that covers politicians, the agencies, the bureaucracy, all of the ongoing drama in Washington, D.C., and I post my daily episodes on X also. The Swampy usually drops at 11 p.m. Eastern. Again, it's Monday through Friday, so come back and check out the Swamp starting tomorrow if you get a quick second to check it out. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.